Hey guys, it's Saria. Today I'm going to show you how to make these Enchanted Tiki Room inspired ears. If you don't know what the Enchanted Tiki Room is, it's an attraction at Walt Disney World and Disneyland. I was inspired to make these after finding some 4-inch embroidery hoops. They reminded me of kind of the style of the Enchanted Tiki Room, and I thought it would be really cute to do them with the little birds inside, similar to the kind of the show that you see there. This is a video continuing on in our DIY Mickey ear series. If you haven't already, please check out the previous videos. Each pair of ears is very different and it might suit another need that you're wanting for your future trip. I'll put the playlist in the description box. I literally can't say description box. I will put the playlist in the description box below so you can check it out. If you guys have any questions or comments or any ideas for future ear videos or future DIYs, please leave it in the comments below. If you haven't already, please subscribe. I make videos like this every Tuesday and Thursday. And without further ado, let's get into the video. So what you'll need for these ears are fake flowers, a couple of fake styrofoam birds. I got mine at Hobby Lobby and they have this wire on the bottom, a 1-inch headband, a small dowel rod, something to cut the dowel rod, and then of course a trim that looks kind of like rope. This is what mine looked like. You will need 2 embroidery hoops. I chose 4-inch, but if you'd like yours to be a little smaller, you could also do 3-inch. You'll also need a hot glue gun and hot glue sticks. So you're going to want to start off with the inside of the embroidery hoop, a fake bird, your dowel rod, and then whatever you're going to use to cut the dowel rod. I just use these really industrial wire cutters. So first you're going to want to size out where the dowel rod is going to fit on the embroidery hoop. So use your bird just to make sure its head's not bumping into it or anything like that, and then go ahead and cut along the side. I cut both ends so that they would match with that angle, and then I also cut them so that they hung off of the dowel rod a little bit as opposed to being the exact width of it. And then I measured the second one for the second ear according to the same size and cut both sides. So now I'm taking that first dowel rod, putting down some hot glue where I know I want it to sit, and then I'm pressing down the dowel rod onto the hot glue. And then I'm going back in and reinforcing it by putting a layer of hot glue from the base of the embroidery hoop up to the dowel rod on both sides. This is just to make sure that it's very secure where it is. Next, I'm taking my trim that looks kind of like rope, and I'm going to wrap it around the dowel rod, and I'm going to show you what the loop I made kind of looks like in a little bit. There's 2 ways you can do this. This is the first way, where you go over the back of the embroidery hoop, and then the second way is just to glue it in a perfect triangle on the top. I liked it to glue it on the top. I just liked how it looks better, but just mess around with it and see what you like for your ears. So I started off by gluing it down and then wrapping it once, gluing it again, and now I'm going up toward the top, putting a dot of glue, gluing the top point of the triangle, and then going back down, if that makes sense. And now I'm going to wrap around the second dowel rod again. So let me show you what that loop looks like if you get a little bit closer to it. Right there. So you want it to loop around it. It makes it look a little bit more professionally done, if that's possible. So go ahead and glue that down and then trim off your excess. And then I went and glued down just that little trim that got left over. Pulling off the strings, and there's your cute little bird holder. So now you're going to take your bird and put it in and just start wrapping around the wire. If you do this really precisely, you can actually make the wire look like the bird's feet. Just make sure that you only wrap in 2 spots, and then you kind of keep all the wiring really close together. You can even separate it into 2 like prongs, if that makes sense, and it looks like 2 little talons on the bird's foot. And then I went in with a little bit of hot glue under the bird just to reinforce it and make sure that it's not shifting around if I move my head. Be careful, this is styrofoam and hot glue is so hot that it can actually melt the styrofoam, so don't use too much. And then go ahead and make your second one. So figuring out the placement on these ears is a little bit different than any other pair I've made. Because of how wide they are, if that makes sense, it's a little bit harder to get the placement right. So what I did is I went to a mirror, I put the headband on, and then I placed them exactly where I wanted them to sit. Now I'm holding this one still, and I'm going to grab a pen and mark exactly where that first one should go on the ears. So another option you can have is if you have any other pair of ears, you can just lay them down on the table and then get a pretty general placement from that. By the way, I have a tutorial on how to make these really simple cork ears. I'll put the link in the description box below. Now that you have the placement all set up, you're going to want to grab your hot glue gun and put a strong amount of hot glue against the headband and then press down the ear firmly. Then I'm going to take my hot glue gun and I'm going to go on the sides of the ear and reinforce it by really putting a lot of hot glue where the ear connects to the headband. I just really wanted these to be strong, not worry about them coming off at all. And from what I can tell, doing this does that. And I'm going to show you what this looks like close up when it's all dry. It's not very pretty right now, but don't worry, the flowers are going to cover that right up. So now go ahead and do the same thing with your second ear. Again, place some hot glue on the headband, firmly press down the ear, and then go back in with your hot glue gun and really reinforce that ear. Now it's time for my favorite part, the flowers. So you're going to want to use smaller flowers just because then that way you can see that nice little pretty gap under the bird that really makes them look like they're sitting on that perch. I always use one slightly larger flower on one side because I think it gives it a nice accent, but you do what you think looks nice. I do think it's a good idea to lay out the flowers before you start gluing just so that you know exactly what you want where and make sure you have enough of a certain color. I decided to mix and match different colors, different styles, and really go for that tiki room kind of look with the orchids and things like that. So after you've covered the front of the headband and the back of the headband, I tried to go in with this longer piece to like drape around the hoop, but I didn't love how it looked, so I actually ended up pulling it off. Instead, what I decided to do was take these smaller, really tiny little flowers and stick them around the hoop. So now I'm just continuing with those tiny flowers, adding little accent marks, and that's it, all done with flowers. That's it for this tutorial. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Please hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, and I'll see you in my next week's tutorial. Bye!